Have you ever asked yourself, can my relationship really work when we are stuck in the mixed signals, go through emotional shutdowns, or he is saying he's not ready? Welcome to a new episode of the Energetics of Happy Relationship podcast with me, Juliana Joy, and this episode will open a whole new door of opportunity for you. Today's interview is really special. You will be listening on a raw, honest, and hopeful conversation with Erin and Evan, who found their way back to connection after a period of silence and confusion. When Erin joined the Bring Him Closer Lab back in December, I remember telling her, this process can be intense, but it also holds the keys to something deeper than just fixing a relationship. It's about coming home to yourself, it's about your power, and it's an incredibly rewarding journey overall. And from that place, love becomes possible again, safely, fully, sustainably. Fast forward to now, just a few months later, you will hear Erin and Evan sitting side by side, sharing how they not only got back together, but also rebuilt their entire foundation for the future. And what I love most, Evan generously offers the inside scoop on what it's like to be a man in this kind of process. If we have ever wondered, what is he thinking? What is my man thinking? Now you will be able to hear front seat row what a man is telling you about what is he doing when he's pulling back? What is he doing when he says, I cannot give you what you want? This is part one of a two-part interview. And honestly, it's less like a podcast and more like a behind the scenes training on how healing really works in a couple, in a relationship. So take a deep breath and let's dive in. I personally think the world needs more Erins and Evans out there. And you together are, in my opinion, a role model in so many ways. And of course, nobody's perfect. Like none of us will ever be perfect. And still, there is a lot, I think, that you can teach the world just by how you're dealing with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why my idea was to just share your story with the world, your individual stories, your how you interact, and all those interesting things. And I mean, how do you feel, by the way?
Good. We literally just had a conversation about this yesterday, and all of the synchronicities and the timings are just amazing. So I thought I would be nervous when you originally asked, do you want to just talk to him? I don't know what it would be like if I was there. And I feel very much at peace and very good about it.
Great. Amazing. So would you mind just telling me, when did you first met? Like, you know each other for so many years in the meantime, right? Do you remember that?
We met in 2021, and originally he reached out to my company to become a client. And I still remember the very first phone call that we had, and I was like, oh, I like this guy. We could be friends. He was very chatty, very friendly. And it turned out that, like, money-wise and time-wise, it just wasn't a good fit for him to become a client. And he ended up going, in our conversations, he found out there were some weaknesses in just how we were doing business. And he's like, I actually help with operations, and I could actually make a big difference for your company. So what if I came aboard and worked and did some work, and then I got to receive and experience some of your services? So fast forward, not only did he come in and help transform our company from within, as he started working, it was like, this guy, wait, he could actually be a coach. He's never been to like coach training or anything, but he's coaching all these people around him. So then he came aboard as one of the coaches at the company and has been working at the retreats and been one of our most like highly acclaimed coaches at the company for the last 4 years. That's how we originally met. And probably we were watching videos, but within maybe like 4 or 5 months, we just became like best friends. And it was just we're best friends. For me, at least, I can speak very confidently. Like there was nothing there romantically. I was very interested in someone else, extremely overly interested
Some might say.
in someone else at the time. And he was actually there to pick up the pieces every time. It did not go very well.
I'm sorry, can I just ask? So you were interested in somebody else, but were you in
Yes.
a relationship or were you just interested?
It was a situationship of situationships. It was not a good thing. I thought we were in a relationship. Other people thought we were in a relationship. He was very clear there was no relationship. So It
Okay.
was that kind of situationship. You may have coached a few people on this.
Yeah,
It was
around that.
so awful.
So, and
Uh,
Evan was observing the whole thing.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So,
Very actively observing it.
no, I'm curious. I'm now getting curious. So, you're observing Erin. So, you're getting best friends and you're observing Erin being into somebody who everyone thinks they're in a relationship, but he doesn't think like this. I'm just curious, what was the whole thing for you when you were just being into that scenario?
I think for me, it was really cool in a way that was new for me, which was I got to be deeply friends with someone and be supportive of someone emotionally. And with our relationship, there was no hint of romance until very late in our relationship. Like we were very clearly like brother sister type of energy, like soul family, something like that. So getting to support her in that felt really beautiful for me with a lot of pain. Like as someone who cared about her very deeply, like she was experiencing a lot of pain and I was experiencing a lot of pain, and the stress would ripple throughout all of her relationships, not just this one. And so
in business too.
Yeah. So I would say it was really cool to get to express a side of myself that was caring for her. And yet at the same time, it was incredibly challenging to watch her do something that was hurting her so badly and frankly him, like in very different ways, but it's tough.
Oh, wow. You know what I'm hearing, and I find it so fascinating. You said I was going through a lot of pain trying to be like supportive in those times. Wow.
Yeah, I think the general sentiment I would paint of that is like trying to help without having any idea how to help, not knowing what this relationship is here to teach her, not knowing why it's happening, not knowing what is the core of the problem that's happening over and over and over, like what is causing this, and trying to be there to help without having a solution or being able to find a solution repeatedly was challenging.
Yeah. You know, I remember, and now this is so kind of off topic.
Perfect.
Channing Tan, oh my God, I don't know how to pronounce this guy, the actor, the Channing Tan.
Yeah.
He was commenting about when his wife delivered, their kid, and he was like, she's delivering and I'm feeling useless and she's in pain. And then 12 hours later, I'm still feeling useless and then the baby's there.
Yeah,
But
that's about right.
it kind of reminds me of like you go about, I'm in pain because I want to help and I don't know how.
Yeah, it's a helplessness. It's a very much caring and at the same time feeling totally incapable of helping. So totally on topic what you just said.
But I'm just curious. I'm not a man. I don't even know how men think, and I'm curious what's going on in a man's brain and brain chemistry, when you're into this helplessness of I want to help, I either don't know how or I don't have the means to. What's that like?
I would say for me, it feels like futility. It feels like helplessness because one of my deepest forms of loving is to be able to provide a solution to a problem. And when my deepest form of loving has the solution has not worked repeatedly, this doesn't help, this doesn't help, this doesn't help, this doesn't help, it's tough because the desire to help still remains. And yet there's this aversion to trying anymore because of how often I've tried and it's been not helpful. It's helpless and I would say scary.
I hear you. Oh, wow. Were you, just out of curiosity, back in the days, were you be able to really notice I'm in pain because of that, it's scary, or were you just trying to cope with it somehow?
I think for me, and this might not be true for everyone, but my experience of it was I have a deep caring for my friend here, and I notice loving her so much and wanting her to be happy. And at the same time, I have a background sense of anxiety. The background sense of anxiety wasn't necessarily saying, hey, I feel helpless in the situation, but very deeply connected to it. So it wasn't necessarily I could say at that moment, I feel helpless. I also wasn't as deeply in touch with my emotions at that time, but there was a background sense of looming anxiety of like, oh no, not again. No, please not again. It was like an aversion, a dread, a worry that didn't express itself verbally as I'm helpless here, but it did express itself as disconnected symptoms of, oh no, please no. I gotta talk about this again. No, but I want to help, but I don't, and I care. So it was more along those lines.
Yes. I've seen specifically now my husband, he gets really angry when he's in that state because he's not aware of I'm in pain, I'm fear. He doesn't know. He's just angry. He's just like, you know? And that's why I was asking, like, were you back then? Because today, obviously, you have a completely different awareness than 7 years ago or 5 years ago. So that's why it was, the question. Interesting. And Erin, how did you move from the situationship to what happened next?
The situationship, fortunately, itself, I am so grateful. There was a threat of violence, and which it was just like, it was such a deal breaker, such a like, this is not safe for me, this is horrific. And energetically, it was just like a door slamming. There was no like, oh, maybe this could work. It was just such a, like, it's done from that moment. There was that moment. I'm so grateful that that happened.
And to be clear, she was not grateful in the moment that it was happening. She was very, like, still wanting to figure it out, wanting to fix it, wanting to get it. And I think this is important because, like, gratitude only comes looking backward toward it. But, like, in that moment, it was still incredibly hard to get rid of.
It was, I would say, for almost the entirety of the relationship or situationship, there were many moments like that where I thought it was over and I wanted it back. This last one, though, it felt different than all the other times. Yeah. It really felt like with that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. And there was this like, was like an actual repulsion and aversion in that moment. Yeah. But I did need, like, I'm so glad that it came from him, even though it was a kind of traumatic experience.
By the way, for me, this sounds kind of classic. And the thing is, some women, including me, in that count, we're holding on so strongly on a relationship that you're not really seeing the nudges. You're getting a nudge, like, this guy's not for you. And you're like, no, but I want it. Those nudges start getting bigger and bigger. And you obviously got like a slam. In my case, I had to make a car accident. And this guy to completely not be present for me in order to understand finally, like, obviously it doesn't work. So I've seen that quite a lot of times. You really had to hit like this the emotional bottom in order to bump up and out. Yeah. So yeah, I get that. Yes. And that when you say, like, in the moment you're so desperate, but then half a year later you're looking back and you're like, it was actually a great idea.
So that happened. And within the same month, he had ended a relationship with someone else. And a couple months later, we spent Christmas together. He invited me down to the family house for Christmas, and we just spent the week together and had a lovely week. But we've gone on plenty of trips and everything before, so it wasn't anything unusual. And then we and a third friend went on like a 2 or 3 week trip to Hawaii, maybe the next month. And it was really interesting because I refound like some journal entries from the time. And it was this very like, I think I have like a friend crush on my friend. And it was these like, I'm feeling something, but no, I'm actually not. And I never could because that would be impossible and totally inappropriate. And I absolutely do not. But isn't this interesting? I really love him. But of course, just in this certain way. So it's this like me like feeling things and going, absolutely not, because that's not appropriate. So I was still in the phase, still very much in the phase of filtering for what's an appropriate emotion, what's an appropriate feeling, is this okay, shall I censor this, am I feeling this, no, and like having some filter, I don't know, with some array of rules, squash or and as it goes through the filter, it's like, not appropriate, you're not feeling this. And so I noticed that. And for me, that was literally it, other than I thought about him a lot and then just wouldn't acknowledge it to myself. Oh, wow. And then nothing happened until July. So you can share like your part of the story of what happened in your timeline.
I'm so glad you took most of that timeline. I have no idea how to do timelines or diary entries. I have no, like, my timeline is like something happened and now we're here. So as far as my timeline goes, what I remember is there was kind of a tipping point. And I would describe this in a way that, as a man, I've never had a female friend that I cared very, very deeply about. And what was lucky about this was that Erin and I got to build a deep friendship, love for each other that later became a huge asset in our relationship, because we have an amount of love for each other before starting the relationship that no one's ever had, right? So what was interesting for me is there was a tipping point where we were friends, and then all of a sudden there was like, that's interesting. Just had a couple ideas of like, might we? That's weird. That happened for about 3 months, and didn't bring it up. And then eventually I was just like, hey, is this something for you too? Like, I'm noticing this coming up and I want to just approach it so it's in the field for both of us. Like, is this a thing for you? And it happened to be, and we then started trying the romance thing.
How long is that ago?
Last 4th of July.
Around about a year ago. I'm curious. So you just said like, okay, you're like, oh, let me see. Let me just kind of see if could that be something interesting.
Yeah.
If you think yourself back to that time, I'm sorry if the question, I hope it's not too triggering to ask, but if you go back to that time, how do you remember how attracted were you to her on a scale of 1 to 10?
6.
Okay. And Erin, do you remember when you were journaling about I have a friend crush on my friend? Do you remember even realizing if you were attracted, and would you be able to rate it on a scale?
It's so hard because there's so much squashing. Yeah. There was so much squashing down, but it wasn't like an infatuation. It wasn't like a 9 or a 10 or like, oh my God, I can't. I'd say it was like a 6 or something too.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 is huge. Like you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a lot. I mean, seriously, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's interesting because you kind of rated this similar.
I think that's because I went first and she knew my answer was great.
Yeah. Sometimes I just exist to copy him because whatever he does is amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, it is. Like,
it was pretty similar for both of us. I think we both existed on the plane of we are very deeply friends, which is totally agnostic of how you look. It's totally separated from the way you look, the way you appear. How you look isn't even a factor in how I know you, basically. Mm-hmm. And so neither of us had considered that as a criteria. And so it wasn't.
Okay. So you were just thinking to yourself, like, let me just see. Let's just see, right? What happened then?
Yeah. For me, it was a question of, I keep seeing this in my mind. So like, if I keep seeing it, maybe I should at least bring it up to broach this thing. It seems worthwhile to talk about, because this might just be a weird thing, but we have to have the conversation as people who have a deep friendship connection. Like,
oh, so you actually started having a conversation back then?
There was a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, about like, are we more than friends, or what was the conversation?
It was basically like, hey, I'm nervous to bring this up because we have such a beautiful friendship and I don't want to ruin it. And I had ideas recently that feel a little bit spicy, and it feels weird to not bring up, but it also feels really weird to bring up. So I don't know what to do with this shit, but I'm going to put it right here and see what you think also. That was basically the conversation.
I mean, I'm excited. I'm seriously, I'm excited. Like,
why? What are you excited about?
I mean,
this is a year and a half ago.
You know, Erin, she's going to kill me, but Erin, this is not an avoidant man. Like, this is not like.
That's what I said too. Thank you, Juliana. I've been saying that for years.
Like, this is very. Oh my gosh. So sorry for that.
That's why I tell you that there are some very serious avoidant tendencies that we got to explore from this non-avoidant man, which we can.
Let's let Juliana talk.
For me, so far, I'm hearing like a very down-to-earth, grounded masculine energy. Like, there's something, it's weird not to talk, but actually I should talk, but maybe we need to be responsible about the friendship. Like, for me, it sounds like so far.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page.
Misleading. Don't let him fool you with that one conversation. Just wait till we get into it.
We've got all that you need. You can proceed, please.
I mean, so far it starts amazing, right?
It started amazing. Yeah. It was great at the beginning.
Okay. So you had that conversation, and Erin, I'm just curious, how do you react to that with all that stuffing of I shouldn't be and so on?
I would say a 7 to 10 minute freeze response after he asked the question where I didn't move and was unable to talk because my reality kind of like broke in half, because what was so certain and had always been so set and what we had communicated to thousands of people that no, we're just like everything that had been very set in stone and my reality kind of cracked. So there was that, which was unsettling and confusing. And then there was this, oh my gosh, how is this even possible? This is what I would have hoped for at the same time. And so there was that bucket of this is wild and doesn't make sense and is confusing. And oh my gosh, this is exactly what I could have wished for. or would have wished for. And then there's the, oh my God, this is the scariest thing in the entire universe because this is my favorite human and my best friend. And if we go down this route, especially knowing his history and with relationships and how he tends to be with women, I am not looking forward to what would happen if I engage in this, because it could really destroy one of the most important things in my life. And this feels insanely risky. So I had all three of those things
The
going
most
on.
important things in your life was what? The business?
My friendship with
The
him.
friendship.
My
The
friendship
friendship.
with him. Mhm.
Okay, interesting. So basically, you were having a lot of concerns. Let's just put a name on that.
Just a
Yes.
few.
Like, we are the way we are, and you have this high need of a plan stability and like predictability. And this is where it comes like, oh my gosh, like the 5 step ahead, which I'm planning for my life, and they're now being disrupted in a good way, but still they're being disrupted. And it's like this.
Mhm. Very destabilizing. Yeah.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah. Okay. But you were able to overcome that, obviously.
I did. I did.
Okay. So somewhere July last year, you had that conversation. Erin got awake after the 7-minute freeze.
Mhm.
And then she was excited, I guess, about what's coming. What happened next? You were dating, or what happened next?
Do you want to share? Or no? Okay.
You remember better than I
I
would.
guess everything exists like an exact timeline to the week. So we had a couple months of having fun and exploring what things were like. And I would say by the second month, there were some interesting dynamics that started to show up since we lived in different cities too. So I went back to Denver, he's in Austin. And so we saw each other and would be with each other for a few days and for work or and whatnot. And it was great when we were together. And then when we were apart, I remember even in the second month, there were 2 instances. There was one where I didn't hear from him for, we're talking every day. And then the 3 days went by and there was not a communication. And I remember coming back to him. I don't think he even had awareness that 3 days had gone by. Like again, I exist in like a construct of a matrix of time to the second. I always know what time, everything is about time. I don't even know sometimes if you're like, time isn't a thing for you. No, it's not a thing.
No.
So that was my first, like, I noticed all this panic and terror come up of like, has something happened? There's been a disconnection. Did something change? Is he now just hooking up with a bunch of other girls? Should I reach out? And I started to notice, oh God, look how anxious I am. Like, it's been a day, it's been 2 days, it's been 3 days. Should I reach out? And then all of the, what do I do with this?
What would you do when that happens? Would you reach out? Would you just wait? What would you do?
The first time it happened, a lot of this was I want to be easygoing. I don't want to be a high maintenance person. I want this to be a relaxed and easy thing. So of course this emotions and feelings were coming up and I was like, I'm okay. I'm fine. As I'm like not functioning and staying at home and not going out and crying and trying to like go on bike rides and not think about it and looking at the time like every 5 minutes kind of thing. Not like it was such a disruption to the pattern of what we had been in previously, and it was just such a huge change. And we talked again after that and had another good 2 or 3 weeks, and then we had a big conversation. I forget. This was a big turning moment. There was something where I had brought it up, the anxiety. And it was in this moment where I had said, he's like, well, it doesn't matter. If this doesn't work out and this whole hooking up thing is not work out, we'll just go back to being friends. It's fine. And I remember in that moment having a like, if I tell him that I can't do that and I'm out, it'll freak him out and put pressure on him. If I don't tell him and he thinks it's okay to just going back and being friends, then he'll treat this differently and I'm not being honest. So in that moment, I had to say, like, I think we've passed a point. I can't just turn the platonic button on. I couldn't just, it's fine, we'll just be friends and just go back to how things were. I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I've definitely already fallen like way too much for you and have too many feelings. And in that moment, I believe there was like an incredible amount of pressure of like, oh my God, this has to work. I have to date her. Otherwise, I lose the most important person in my life. So now I have to like her.
Yeah.
I have to date her. There was this
By the way, I want to acknowledge how because I'm feeling the energy right now, and I want to acknowledge how it is for you to go back and to remember and recall, and just because I'm really feeling it's not easy to go back.
You'll see me yawning as we do this. That's part of this
processing.
Feeling that,
Yeah. So after that, it was such an intense conversation. He's like, I need some space. And I had not.
Can I go just one step back? Because seriously, like half of the Earth's population, which is female, wants to know what the hell is happening for a man when for 3 days he's just silent. Like they want to know. Like everyone wants to know.
But before you answer that, after this conversation, he's like, I need space and I'll get back to you in a couple days. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days went by. I was literally flying on business trips, bawling for 3 hours on the airplane, going, I don't know when he's ever going to get back to me. He said 2 days. I don't even know if he knows what day it is or if he has any sense of how much time. He never said, this is when I'll get back to you. And I was in this limbo of, I have no idea if and when I'll hear back from him. So his space that he took, I was so destabilized and so dysregulated that it was impacting my work and my relationships. And I was like, this is not a good relationship for me to be in, was what was starting to form in my head. But
which, by the way, darling, is like goes in the avoidant protective side. Like you go from anxious to the other side.
Yeah.
I'll be fine.
Yes. Oh my God, I was a train wreck. But what was it like when you were taking the space? Like, what was going on in your mind, if anything? Like,
I don't know this particular, because all the instances sort of run together for me. My relationship at time is much different than Erin's. But I would say for me, often taking space was the best way for me to re-regulate and get to a point where I wanted to connect again. So we would connect and connect and connect, and then I would need space so that I could have the desire to connect again. There's a part of me that felt much safer alone. And in taking space to be alone, it wasn't so much a running from her as it was a trying to recharge my own battery and desire to reconnect. So in having her reach out times that were too early for me, what was happening was she was needing connection in order to feel charged up, and I was needing space in order to feel charged up to connect with her. And so that would be my general experience of this, I would say.
Thank you so much. Seriously.
Yes.
Like this, when you say that, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And I'll tell you why. I remember one of my previous boyfriends, and I would be like, you never want to cuddle. And he goes, you don't even give me the time to want to cuddle. Like,
yes. The time to want to cuddle is important. The space to want to cuddle.
And also my husband, I mean, we're married, like we live together, and he's like, I need my space. And I'm like, okay, I go work. I'm in office, just have your space. But the thing is, of course, we have the safety and I don't get triggered and it's just normal. But the way you described it right now, it makes so much sense. People nowadays with all the electricity, high tech around us and all the media, we are not really taking enough time to be charged. And spiritually, a woman is plugged actually to her man.
Although it tends to get more concentrated on romantic interest because that's the most intense type of connection for me. But yeah, very, very accurate what you said.
Wow. Just really seriously, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. It really sheds a lot of light on, like, you need to imagine women, they can spend days thinking over why he's not answering for 3 days, like days.
I can serve as your avoidant man translator. What's he thinking?
And actually, I'm having this unpopular opinion out there, in the social media, that the irregular communication is actually normal.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of, since when do we have a mobile phone? Like it's 20 years, 30 years. And before that, people would phone. How often do you phone? Like a few times per week. Before that, there was letters. Like, this was so irregular compared to now. And just because we have a gadget in the hand, it doesn't mean that the habits need to be different.
Yeah.
But anxiety and everything else is taking the best of us.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, wow. So thanks. This was like amazing to understand. But there was this conversation where you said, okay, I need some space to like rethink and so on. Was that where you were talking about a high cortisol and putting me under stress, which was just pretty much the same, but in a higher extent? Or was it a different line of thought for you?
I would say in general, because we were so connected, we would connect for days at a time. Like we would hang out in the same city because we're a long distance, right? And it created this dynamic where we would connect a lot and then not connect at all, and then connect a lot and not connect at all, and connect a lot and not connect at all. And so the taking of space was primarily, for me, a way to help regulate my cortisol so I could feel desirous to connect again after having connected for a while. So it's not so much even that this was particular to that situation, so much as that was the pattern of all of our interactions almost.
Yeah, I hear that. And Erin, for you, basically, you just described how you were feeling in those days and moments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just when you listen to what he just said, does that make sense to you now, reflecting back?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's explained this, and I've looked into the research because as it was going on, part of the way that I try to regulate or handle any situation that's uncomfortable for me is to understand better what's happening so I can make sense of it. So I tried to look into it. I tried to read about it. I tried to ask from his perspective. And back then we didn't know about all the neurochemistry or what was going on like in the brain.
She found that, actually.
I did find that. But there were conversations about, I need this. It's not a you thing. It's a, I need, like, this is for me to be okay thing. It's fascinating. And I continue to be fascinated to be told, like, this is a need I have. And I have never experienced the need or anything close to that need and actually experienced the opposite need. It's almost like being told, I just don't ever want to eat food. I can't ever eat food or ever drink water. And it's like, wait, how do you live? You know? And so to hear from his experience that what he needed was just days of no talking and days of space, it was hard for me to wrap my head around because my needs felt very opposite to that.
By the way, just a side comment, for Evan to be able to explain what he needs, nice. Like, I need days of not talking. Like.
Thank you.
But to be clear, at the moment, though, he said, I just need a couple days. And then again, 3, 4, 5 days went by and I had not heard from him. So he was working on expressing the needs, but the accuracy and the clarity around the needs was lacking at the time. We worked on that, and that's changed so much. But at the time, with me being so specific and so precise and lasering in on, these are the words that were said. He said 2 days, so it's going to be 2 days. And I'm watching the clock for 2 days, like a kid waiting for Christmas. Mm-hmm. I'm like, it's been 2 days. Okay, it's 8 a.m. on the second day. And it's like, okay, it's 8:32 on the second day. And it was so bad. It took so long.
I think also to be clear about how clear my communication was, I ran the dismissive avoidant pattern pretty hard when we first met and had been running it for years. And most of my way of getting my needs met was by covert, quiet, trying to subterfuge into my needs, was trying to get a couple of days of quiet by spacing out my responses and by not saying things and not risking conflict to have these conversations, but just by trying to get it without disturbing the peace. And so what sounds today like Evan had a very mature conversation is probably just us looking back through who we are today. I think in reality, it was probably the only reason we got to be able to communicate that well was because we had a very, very, very deep friendship, and she was my best friend. And I had a lot to lose if we did not learn to communicate well. And I had a lot to lose. So some part of this communication only came because there was a lot of stakes. And if I didn't want to lose the most important thing in my life, and so if that meant having to have a harder conversation, it became worth it because of all the complexity wrapped into what we were doing.
I mean, I hear you loud and clear, and this makes so much sense because at the end of the day, just leave the dismissive avoidant topic just for a second aside. Everyone is wounded. We are all wounded to a certain level. And this usually is expressed by either I'm not communicating well, or I don't know what I feel, or I don't know what I need. This is how it usually turns out. In order to communicate better or to kind of make things work and meet your needs, which is I need more space.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the interesting thing.
As our consciousnesses have sort of developed and the way we've communicated has developed, the same message in me has learned to be translated very differently. Where before, because I wasn't super in touch with my needs, the way I felt and the way I experienced her was, get off of me, Jesus, I need space.
Yeah.
Or get off, stop. That was my entire experience of her trying to get what she wanted when I didn't want it. That's part of it too, I would say.
Oh my gosh, this is beautiful. And feeling offended.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was not a coach and I wouldn't have that experience, I would have been offended like 10 years ago or 5 years ago. I would have been. And then there's no relationship, like if you continue doing this. What you just said is it was in the beginning, it was through annoyance, through frustration, through like disconnect.
Yeah.
But still, you are trying to communicate needs where maybe in 5 relationships before that, you were not. You were just disappearing, I guess, or just going quiet.
Yeah. For me, it would have come out as frustration, annoyance, and eye roll. It's like,
Yeah.
this, ugh, ugh. So that would have been my response to it.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for sharing. And this is, there's so many women who are not understanding of how to bring an avoidant man closer. But actually, what you hear saying is we have needs, we cannot really communicate them in a nice way. And if you let us lead, then we will be back when we're ready. Like, actually.
One of the most helpful things, at least for me, for my nervous system, when it comes to space, that has made it so much easier for me. Because when there's space taken, there's this like, I don't know if this is like a permanent thing. I don't know if I did something wrong. I don't know if we're disconnected. I don't know when he's coming back, especially from those first couple times when it was just like, crickets. And I have no sense of what's happening or what's going on or when he's coming back. I don't know what to do. And it's such a freeze for me. One of the things that he does that makes such a big difference in my life and to my nervous system now is if when he needs space, whatever form it is, whether he's like, I'm going to sleep in the other room, or I'm going to take a nap, or I'm going to take a few hours, or I'm going somewhere, he'll say, and I'll be back tonight, and we'll talk in the morning, or whatever it is. Like, it actually is irrelevant to me how much space he needs, and it feels like I get to give him a gift of something that will feel good. But the gift he gives back is he works in some time frame so that I know that he'll be back and it's not a disconnection. And he'll also say, and I love you, or something really kind along with it. So I get to go off and live my life. And there's a little bit of like, oh, I know it's happening and I feel safe and everything's good with us. There's no doubt. There's no fear. There's no worry. I can schedule to my heart's delight and work in time. And it makes it so easy, and it's such a non-issue. Whereas the exact same action and him getting his need met without that one sentence, I would feel quite destabilized and nervous and scared. Even if I was to sit there and talk to myself and go, okay, we're okay. I'm okay. Part of me that's scared, I'm okay. And I'd have to do all this work. It still would be deeply unpleasant for me. And so that has been such a huge thing. It's like one sentence for me makes a world of it.
Yeah.
One other thing that really played into that I think was impactful for me, I'll say on the opposite side, is there was a moment where all of a sudden Erin realized that giving me space was in the best interest of us connecting in the long term. And when she started to see, oh, if I want to connect with you best, I can give you space and that will help us connect better. What changed was that all of a sudden she was no longer fighting giving me space. And when I had the experience of wanting space and having someone be like, I can give you space. How much space do you need? I'll give you space. Because it's in the interest of connection, right? It's no longer a break in connection. It's in the interest of connection. And when she had started encouraging my space and was receptive to, oh, you want to sleep in the other room? Sure, go for it. Or, hey, you want to do this? Go for it. I'm like, amazing. Because as someone who's constantly wanted space, most of the time, when I've wanted space, people have been like, no, come back. And that makes me want more space. So it's this really interesting dance where the moment someone was encouraging of my space, all of a sudden I needed less of it.
Yeah.
And it can't be faked. You can't make that up. You can't be like, yeah, totally, and be unreal about it and have it be real or have it work. But the moment she actually saw that giving me space allowed us to connect more was the moment that I started to feel more okay in taking space and then needing less space. And then there was less, it started an upward spiral, I would say.
I hear you. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I'm teaching energy, and when you give space, but you continue being in your mind of when and how long, and the energy that you're sending is still this pressure energy.
Yeah.
So like giving space, but I think it's what changed for Erin. I mean, darling, the way I perceived you is you started trusting more.
Yeah. Trusting.
And conceiving of space as a way to strengthen the relationship.
Yeah.
As opposed to break it. Like you said, from the energetic standpoint, if she doesn't have that belief strong, I can feel she's giving me space, but not wanting to. You can feel it, right? It's a thing, even if not consciously. The other person will feel it, even if they don't know it. So it's, yeah, I would say it's very energetic.
And to build on top of that, though, even if I had come to that realization and was like, okay, I want to give him space because it's going to help our connection and our relationship, and he'll come back. Without that little piece of additional communication, the like, hey, we're still in connection. Here's a hug. Here's a kiss. Like, I still care about you. And I look forward to talking with you tomorrow afternoon. Like, let's go for a walk or something like that. And here's like the next time we're going to connect. It would still be far more challenging for me. So knowing that it was in service to our relationship, but then also him, that communication for me, I don't know if I'm like extra anxious or I just care about time more, but that was the second piece that made it go from a very scary thing to something that is not an issue at all.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you kind of simplify it right now, but I know your journey, and I know how many days and loops and communication, and how, just the volume of what it took to get there, because you make it sound very like, oh, that's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah. Absolutely was not.
No, there was nothing easy. It was not easy.
Can you put a disclaimer at the bottom of this,
This was not
for anyone
easy.
watching this?
It took work. It takes work.
This sucked eggs for a number of months.
But for me, and really, this is what I really find fascinating, is you were both equally willing to leave your zone of comfort in order to have those loops of conversations and to have that disruption, because I mean, it is a huge disruption. And I'm just curious, like a few months ago when, when Evan was like, I need space, and, and then you wouldn't know for a few days, where were you in the level of attraction? Do you remember?
It's funny because the answer that I was going to edit it, but the answer that immediately came was like, there was no consideration of attraction or anything. It was like this trauma response. It was like I was in a nervous system state that was just like, I need to get back to regulate. I need to find out what's happening. Like, there was no consideration of how attractive he was or what, like, that wasn't even in my mind. It was like, this is not okay. I am not okay. We are not okay. Something's not okay. Something needs to be fixed. Like that was like 98% of like my consciousness. It was so stressful, and I had not experienced like the disappearance and over double the amount of time and not knowing what was happening. So there was not even like thoughts about that. That wasn't even in my mind.
I think on my end, I would describe it as there was probably like the attraction was greater than before we started seeing each other romantically or trying things out. It probably got to like an 8.5 on the like physical attraction scale, but there was also what came in with it was like an 8.5 attraction with like a 7.9 emotional repulsion. So it came in net, like it was net positive. There was still enough to like have the conversations and figure things out. But the additional attraction came in with a lot of emotional, get away from me.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So I'm hearing,
We're like not even.
Seriously, you need to put that into a book, please. You must. What I'm hearing, and this is so interesting, where you say, but the attraction was still a little higher than the annoyance with her.
Or the desire to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like, to get off of me, lady. The attraction was enough to stay, but it was a skin of your teeth kind of moment, like, ugh.
If you think of the more longer term relationships, this is how they function. Like, your wife is annoying you, then you're annoyed, but somehow you're still kind of attracted. Yeah. Sorry, I'm joking, but this is really like a great combination for longevity. Oh my God. And you had a longer period of no contact. Do you remember that?
Fast forward. There was like a 2-week trip that we took together, and then there was me breaking up with him, and then there was me trying to get back with him, and then there was a 3-month period of I don't want you back, now we're just going to be friends. So that all happened too, to get to our no contact period. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that in there.
Wait a minute, you broke up with him before I met you?
Yes, in November around Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay, so you broke up with him?
I did. Whoa. I'm sure she forgot.
Okay, wait a minute. So you broke up with him?
Yeah, I was so proud of myself. It was like the first time I was like, my needs. I started to learn about needs, and I was like, my needs aren't getting met. You're not making me feel loved. And I blamed everything on him. And I was like, I'm not having this anymore. And I hadn't learned really to ask for what I wanted and just blamed him for everything. So I said, I'm done with this. I won't be treated this way. And I was proud of myself for like 5 minutes. And then I realized that I had done something horribly wrong. So I came back after 3 days and I was like, I messed up. I really don't want to do this. This is the worst decision I made. One of my worst decisions in my life. So what do you think? Let's not do this. And he was like, oh no, no backsies. We're not going back. Like, I'm not taking it back. You can be my best friend now if you want, but we're not going to date. So that was our November, and that was horrific.
Okay, Evan, would it be okay if you go back and remember, how did you feel when she came up with, I'm breaking up with you?
How would I describe that? So, okay, there was a good period of our relationship where Erin, instead of, so in trying to maintain a relationship, when something that would potentially provoke anger would happen, it would go squash her down. It would get squashed down here and she wouldn't feel it, wouldn't express it. When she broke up with me, what was essentially happening was she finally got in touch with all of that anger and it was coming out all at once as a, screw this guy's not worth it, I'm worth it, he's not, all of this like sort of, useful energy, but came out as a highly unpleasant not tirade, but similar to a tirade, if there was a synonym I could use. So here we are. And what was it like for me? I guess it was, on one hand, as her friend, I was like, I'm super proud of you for this. And on the other hand, I was like, screw you, dude. I don't want to deal with, like, this isn't fair to put all on me. Because on some level, the reason it was all being put on me right now is because she hadn't said any of it earlier. She hadn't owned her stuff earlier. And so it was this is all Evan's fault, without the acknowledgement of how many times she had not said what was true for her and how many times this kind of stuff had gotten squashed.
And I had not learned about, like, I was taking things, instead of asking for specifics and being able to determine and figure out what I needed specifically, it would come out as, I don't feel loved. Like, that was his job, right? But instead of going, I noticed that I would think I need to be able to be in communication X number of times a week, or be able to ask for anything specific. Instead of even daring and getting clear on that, it would come out as, I don't feel loved, and that's your fault, And so there's so much, like, I would take my feelings and just point it. Yeah. And it's like, that's on you. Yeah. That's totally a you thing. Instead of going, wait, what is missing? Why am I feeling this way? And then being able to determine what was missing, name it, and then go back to him and share, I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling like, here are my emotions, and these are the things that I think I would need. Are you open to having a discussion with me about them? All I was is like days of like, I don't feel loved, I don't feel appreciated, and then I would put it on him.
Yeah. And because I don't feel this, you are inconsistent, or you are X, you are Y, you are Z, which to me puts me in a more defensive, I don't want to help you at all. Like, the moment you label me, no thank you. Yeah. I'm good on helping you.
And then I'd be reading all the things and advice, and it would be like, it's because he's dismissive avoidant. So if he's inconsistent, that's going to make you feel not important. I was like, yeah. You're dismissive avoidant. It's your fault. I don't feel important. Instead of like looking at my stuff, it was very convenient to dump it on him. So
yeah. Totally. The problem with psychology is people are spending too much time in their mind and they're not really listening to what actually is going on. Because, like, am I anxious? Is he avoidant? What is our dynamics? Like, they're here. Like, but what I heard from Evan is like, I feel, and I'm just translating what I heard is like, I feel put on the spot. I feel judged. I feel blamed for apparently I need to be in charge for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is what I'm hearing. And this is like,
correct. And it creates that assumption that I'm responsible for her feelings, or she's responsible for mine, creates a codependent living situation or a relating situation over time. And the moment that dynamic sort of starts happening, where I start getting blamed for her emotions, everything becomes a mess. Yeah. So definitely feeling blamed, feeling like I don't want to help you because I'm responsible for, if you feel that, no thank you. Like, it just becomes an automatic no for me.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And that's why you said, like, let's just be friends.
Yeah. And frankly, that was the part of our relationship that I was very comfortable with. And I was less comfortable in the romantic relationship. And so the part that was easy was the part that we always had. I would have just preferred to go back to that. Like, I don't want to deal with all this complexity.
No, I mean, I'm like, I know how it feels. And that's why I'm just feeling it with you guys. The interesting thing for me is so you were friends. And I think this is where I met you, Erin, probably somewhere around December.
Beginning of January, because what happened is when he's like, no, we are not going to get back together. I came to this point where, and I got so sick. I was in the hospital. I got an infection. I was sick. I was fever for 24, like my whole body it was horrific. And I am either going to try and be friends with him or I have to do what I said and like I have to leave and like push him out of my life because I have feelings. So I battled for a long time. And what do I do? Do I stay friends? Do I try and be friends with him? Could we get back to, I didn't know. So I've said, well, he's worth it. Even if this is painful, I don't want to lose him. So I will try for a period to see if I can just be best friends with him again, because that's what he is insistent on and he's put up a boundary. So I tried for 3 months-ish, 2 or 3 months, and I was an absolute train wreck because all it was me pushing down what I actually felt, what I actually wanted, and showing up pretending that I was great, being friends, not being able to, I'd let it like squeak out, or I'd say I was crying all day, very indirect things. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll be there for you. But it wasn't like, and I was trying to handle it. And I was like, if it takes pain so I don't lose him, I will do it. He's worth that to me. But I got sick. My body became sicker. I was not able to function. It was impacting my work, my relationships, my body, my health. And so after 2 months, and I go and visit him, and 4 or 5 times a day, I'd have to walk outside and cry for 20 minutes on my own. I'd cry myself to sleep. And then I was like, I gave it a shot, but this is not going to work. So that's right when I met you, was back in January. Yeah. At that time, when I was like, this is not working. I'm not in a relationship, but he's treating me kind of like we're in a relationship. It feels like more than friends. So maybe there's something there. Could I be doing, is this me? And that's when I was overthinking everything 20 times a day and not really sure what I should be doing.
Wow. Can I ask, Evan, if because Erin just said he's treating me like kind of best friend / relationship, but we're not when we're friends. And I'm curious, earlier I was asking on a scale of 1 to 10, how attracted were you? And you're like, okay, I was on an 8.5, but the annoyance was like on a 7.5. Yeah. And then you went into just being friends. Mm-hmm. After she broke up and you said, no, thank you, which makes sense. And then you're just being friends with an attraction of 8.5, or did the attraction go down? And how was that for you emotionally in that time?
I think if you look at my physical attraction to her, it very closely correlates to how emotionally connected I feel to her. But the emotional connection to her is the thing that drives the physical attraction. So interestingly, the times where we have been most emotionally connected have been the times I have felt most attracted. And the times where all of a sudden we're no longer emotionally connected, the physical attraction has gone pretty dramatically down. So in the moments where I'm feeling the most emotional distance, the attraction also has gone down. And I think partially the physical attraction for me, and maybe for other people that are in similar shoes as me, like the physical attraction is sort of an easy thing to point to when you can't figure out why the emotional distance is so high. When you're feeling an emotional distance that you can't put a finger on, and you don't really know is there and you can't understand it, the physical attraction will dip, so you can point to that. That's my experience of it. So the physical attraction would go down, but interestingly, the more emotionally connected we would become, the more the physical attraction would ratchet back up. So it's kind of an odd relationship, but I would say it corresponds pretty heavily to that.
Wow, this makes sense. Because, a man is going to tell you, like, I don't feel attracted to you. They will not tell you, oh, I don't feel emotionally connected. We say that usually.
Yeah, it's easier to point to, and it's also very definite. It's very simple to say, this is the issue, as opposed to saying, well...
that was one of the things when we would have the conversations, and it was like, wait, you treat me like we're in a relationship. We kind of are in a relationship. But he'd go, yeah, but I'm just not physically attracted to you. And so just everything would stop at that. And so I thought it was just like that simple. And that was going to be like the end of it. Like, because again, if it's not there, it can't be forced. It apparently was there, but I guess it's gone away. Yeah. But to hear that and me being so literal over and over and over, I'm just not attracted to you. There was nowhere it seemed like to go from there.
Oh wow. Yeah. Okay. So if I'm hearing it right, so she would put all that blame on you, broke up with you. You said no, thank you. We're just friends. I don't feel emotionally connected that much, so not attracted that much for a good while.
Mhm.
Did you lose trust in that time?
Yeah, I would say trust, but also the level of, I would call it cortisol, the level of stress that I had in dealing with her was greater than the level of joy I felt in dealing with her. And so once it reached that tipping point of like the stress is more than the joy, I'm like, no, thank you. I'm generally good without this. Trust, yes. I still knew that she had my best interest at heart because we had so much friendship and so much of that. But it was more along the lines of this is net negative to me. Like the stress is more than the joy. It's draining me every time we talk when we're interacting. So I don't want this portion that seems to be the draining portion. I want the portion that seems to be the life giving portion for me. Um,
Okay.
so that was the gist of it.
Yeah. And so was that the time where you just went into this longer no contact phase?
No, we're not there yet. Almost. Very like we had a handful of trips, we had a work experience, and everything was just bubbling up to a point where I was getting sicker and sicker, and I was starting to say things like, I can't do this anymore. I didn't want to say like I'm about to walk away, but I was needing to express and was starting to feel like I can't keep visiting you. I can't pretend we're just friends. I can't be out and like not hold your hand and not sit close to you and go back to being like a random person. I can't do it. And I would say that, and I didn't want to threaten, but I didn't know what else to say because I also wasn't like I want to walk away. And at one point, he's like, "Well, I don't want to lose you. You're an important person to me." And so we had this space where both of us had a lot of space in our week, and we spent like a week working on. It's like a week working on ourselves and working through all sorts of challenges and interrelating issues. And that's right after that is when he went off to France for 3 months. And he said, I need a lot of space to figure out where I'm at, what I need. And I think it would be best if we go no contact for a while, meaning maybe, but again, no definite amount of time. I had to just trust that he would come back when it felt good to him. So I went into like one of the scarier things for me. I didn't know if it'd be 3 days or 3 weeks or 2 months or whatever. And there was this, maybe you'll come to France, maybe you won't come to France. I'll reach out at some point. And then we had to just kind of say goodbye so he could figure out what he was feeling and I could sit with what I, figure out where I was.
I mean, this is, if you just reflect back, how huge the shift is from I am feeling drained and stressed from you to you're so important, I don't want to lose you. Going from the one to the other in a matter of a few weeks. This is huge.
It was a few months. We had a few months. It took a while of trying to pretend like I could be his friend
Yeah.
and not working for him to kind of get to that space of me going, I think I might have to leave. I don't think I can do this. And then he started that.
And it's still huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I'm serious because my mind goes into how many obstacles need to be removed from the one to the other on the way.
Yeah. A lot. A lot is the answer.
Mhm.
So that's why the no contact phase actually makes so much sense because it's your brain is literally like overwhelmed with
Mhm.
with stuff to be processed.
Yes.
And when we just hopped on a call, you said France was the most transformative time for you.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I think partially because of the way I grew up and the way that I have interacted with people in the world. I need to take space from things to see things from outside of them. I need space to look at a person, a relationship, a business, a friendship from outside of them in order to understand them. Because while in them, I haven't been able to fully like get in touch with what's real for me because there's so much going on. There's so much her stimulus, me stimulus, us stimulus. What's going on? What does she want? I have to look at what she wants first. And taking space allowed me to say, what do I actually want? Without the idea of what does she need first, or what does the relationship need, or what does that need? Like, what do I actually desire? And it gave me the ability to self-reflect and to say, without looking first to her needs or looking first to the relationship or looking first to anything, I had to say, what do I want? Which is very hard for me to do while in. And so in many ways, the space was like the most important thing that we've ever done and that she's ever given me, because without it, there was a lot of stuff that I found in the way we were interrelating that was not helpful, healthy, useful for either of us. And there were also parts of me and parts of her and parts of both of us that were feelings that we didn't know were there, like fears and angers and resentments and all that stuff. And so I would say one of the reasons it was particularly important for me was that space allowed me to actually see and feel what was real for me, more so than I could while staying in constant communication.
Oh, wow. And of course, the change of space, because it's a far away, a different, everything different.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, it gives you really the detachment that you're talking about. I mean, because we kind of talked a lot, but how do you actually reconnect it?
Oh, I said I'm ready for a call. And I said, hey, like, I think I found some big stuff. So the whole time I was alone, I was doing introspection. And I was like, what's here? What's mine? What's hers? What feels gross? What feels good? What's trying to figure everything out? Like classic man thing, like trying to figure everything out. Like what's going on? What's the problem? How do I fix it? And we had a call, and the call was, hey, I know you really want, or we've talked about you coming to France, and that's both of our goals. I still really want that to happen. It's not done yet. We're not clean. This is still a messy situation, but I really want that to happen. And candidly, our first half of France was a lot of fighting. And one of the things we found was that because we had all of this pressure to get things right and to figure things out if we could, because we cared so much about each other, she's also my best friend and also my adventure buddy and also my this and also my that. Like all of those things were tied into this relationship, not just the one thing. Because of all that pressure to figure things out, when she actually came to France, we had a large chunk of conflicts, but the conflicts were probably the most transformative part of our relationship, because each one of them sort of burned off ways of interrelating together that were not helpful, not healthy, and helped to get all of that stuff out of what I call our field. Like, just get this out, get that out, get this out, get that out, get this out.
And to be clear, like the fights, it wasn't like we were repeating the same things. It wasn't like you're this or labeling that, and just like, it wasn't just a fight of like your dinner is late or something like that. It would be a conflict that would bring up one of our fears or one of our patterns, or hey, I've noticed you are putting your emotions on me regularly, or this wording that you're using is not healthy. And so each time we had a conflict, we would heal to like 101% instead of 99%. So I don't think we repeated the same. It's not like we came back to the same things and we were going in a cycle, and it wasn't toxic. It was like we detox like something gross from the way that we related each time. So it was exhausting, but it was highly productive, and it would resolve something each time we had one of the conflicts. So I just didn't want it to sound like we were fighting and like calling names, or like a stereotypical you never get off the couch kind of like name calling. It wasn't like that. It was like, I need to sit down and talk about a way that I notice I've been feeling hurt for the last 3 months. And I noticed this, and here's my story about it. And I've been feeling so scared to mention this to you. And it's like, wow. And then we would share experiences and then come to an understanding together. So that's what, in my experience, like the conflicts were like, versus like just fighting.
And primarily because the first most important priority that we're always focusing on in a conflict is learning. And even I think looking at the relationship, the first purpose of the relationship is to learn. It's to learn about myself in relationship. It's to learn about her. But if that's both of our first priorities, what happens in the fights, the conflicts, is that if we are here to be right, the conflicts will just continue to be this over and over and over. But if our priority is to learn as much as possible in the relationship, not necessarily to stay together forever or to be accurate or to whatever, if the purpose is to learn, then every one of these fights changes a little bit, in the sense that while we are fighting, I'm constantly looking for what is to learn here. And she's looking for what is mine, what is his, what do we learn like that? And with the purpose being to learn, the fights have a like going upward together kind of vibe, as opposed to a you're right, I'm wrong, or I don't know how to describe it.
But yeah, they're generative instead of destructive. And when both people enter it and there's a curiosity as a baseline instead of a need to be right or focus on the other person has done me wrong, when it's like I know their intention, I know they love me, I know I can learn from this, I know I have a part in this.
Yeah.
And you go in, and I would go in with that kind of mindset. It might be uncomfortable and hard, but I know that on the other side there would be a resolution and we would both be better for it.
And the fights would still happen and be pretty big. That wouldn't be a sign of the failure of it. It would just be that part has to happen in order for the learning thing to happen. It was just the underlying basis of all the fights, and then that changed what all the fights actually did and meant.
What I'm hearing is you didn't pull out the wounded inner child, like, how could you ghost me for 2 weeks or 4 weeks? Like, you're not putting that out, so you're not throwing a tantrum.
No,
Which, this is already huge. And then you were actually using the disruption, the fight, to go into the need. I had a few more juicy questions, but I can leave them for another time. There is a little more to be said. But thanks so much for sharing. And it's seriously, you are remarkable, like insane.
Wow.
And the thing is, for me, Evan is not an avoidant man.
Here's what I would say. It was the basis from which I started, and every avoidant man has it's a starting place. It's a default position toward relationship. It's a default leaning toward action, but it's not a permanent, not a static thing. It's a thing that decreases as you know it, and don't assume it's your entire identity.
Yeah. If someone desires to work on it, though, otherwise it just becomes a default way of being.
Yes.
Right?
Agreed.
That's a wrap on part 1. So, how's your heart after that? This was just the beginning. In part 2, we are going even deeper. We'll talk about what really happens when conflict shows up, what it looks like to reconnect after shutdowns, and how Erin and Evan went from feeling stuck to becoming true partners emotionally, energetically, and practically. And if you're thinking of someone, listening, a friend who's been stuck in mixed signals, who keeps replaying what went wrong, or who's trying to stay hopeful in love, send them this episode. You never know how much one conversation can shift somebody's path. I'll see you in part 2. Bye-bye for now.